Deep Impact was the disaster movie brave enough to let the disaster win. The comet hits, the wave comes, and millions die anyway. But did you know the director shot a longer version of the apocalypse, then deliberately buried part of it? Or that Morgan Freeman played America's first black president a full decade before it actually happened? 15 facts, starting with the cut you never saw. 15. The version you've seen was cut down, and the director did it on purpose. Deep Impact runs just over 2 hours, but the movie Mimi Leder first assembled was noticeably longer. On the DVD commentary, Leder confirms her original rough cut had significantly more footage, and a chunk was trimmed before release. Here's the reveal. The cuts came from two directions. Some were made in direct response to test screening reactions, and others were Leder's own calls in the editing room. Scenes she personally decided the film was better without.
And it takes much longer, so it's kind of tedious.
And she stands by it completely, saying outright that the shorter theatrical cut plays better than her longer version. So the streamlined Deep Impact, isn't everything that was shot. There's a longer cut of this apocalypse sitting in the vault, one the director looked at and deliberately left behind. 14. The ad banners on the computer screen secretly spoil the ending. Watch the early scene where reporter Jenny Lerner is at her computer, searching the internet for the mysterious term ELE. Freeze on the screen and look at the banner ads running down the side. The film hid a joke and a spoiler in plain sight. The fake ad banners read things like, "The wave of the future," and "You've got some ocean coming." It's a sly, blink-and-miss-it wink to the audience. Those throwaway ads are quietly foreshadowing the film's climax, the catastrophic tidal wave that eventually swallows New York. Most viewers never notice they were told exactly how the movie ends, in a joke banner ad in the first act. 13. The astronomer's car crash death copies a real astronomer's death. 1 year earlier, watch the scene early on where the astronomer who first confirms the comet, Dr. Marcus Wolf, is killed in a car accident before he can warn the world. That death isn't random. It eerily mirrors reality. Astronomer Eugene Shoemaker, who co-discovered the Shoemaker-Levy 9 comet that famously smashed into Jupiter in 1994, the real event that partly inspired this film, died in a car crash in the Australian outback in July 1997, while the movie was in production. So the film's fictional comet astronomer dies exactly the way the real comet astronomer had just died months earlier. The tribute goes deeper. Shoemaker and his wife Carolyn were actual science consultants on the film, making his real death and his fictional counterpart's death painfully, coincidentally intertwined. 12. The spaceship is named Messiah, and the comet shelter is the Ark. Listen for the names in the president's big speech, because the film loads them with meaning most viewers absorb without noticing. The spacecraft sent to destroy the comet and save humanity is named the Messiah, a savior sent from the heavens to redeem the world. And the vast underground cave built to preserve a slice of humanity from the coming flood? It's officially nicknamed the Ark, and it's designed to hold a chosen remnant of people while a world-drowning wave wipes the surface clean. The film is quietly retelling Noah's flood, an ark, a chosen few, a deluge, and a savior, dressed up as a science fiction disaster movie. The biblical scaffolding is right there in the proper nouns, hiding under the special effects. 11, that's not just a comet. It's the size of Manhattan, and the film shows you why that matters. When the president says the comet is 7 miles wide, that number floats past most viewers. But watch how the film makes the scale real. The second, smaller fragment, the one that actually strikes the Atlantic, is described as the size of Mount Everest, and it still generates a tidal wave 3,000 feet tall that erases the entire East Coast. The film's genuinely chilling trick is scientific restraint. It shows you the small piece doing catastrophic damage, then tells you the big one would have ended all life on Earth entirely. Unlike its louder rival that summer, Deep Impact wanted you to feel the actual physics of what a real impact means. That even the survivable version is an apocalypse. 10. Watch Robert Duvall's crew go blind, the film's most honest death. Watch the Messiah crew's final act. Aging astronaut Spurgeon Fish Tanner and his team, having failed to fully destroy the comet, choose to fly their ship into the comet's core on a suicide run, detonating their remaining nuclear weapons to split it. But look at the detail the film includes that most disaster movies skip. The crew has already been blinded. One of them, Tanner, reads to his crewmate because the man can no longer see, damaged by the mission. So the ascetic men who save humanity do it blind, flying into certain death, unable even to watch it happen. It's one of the most quietly devastating heroic deaths in disaster cinema. No triumphant music swell, just blind men choosing to die so a stranger's child might live. 9. The comet discoverer is a teenage Elijah Wood, years before Frodo watched the kid at the telescope who first spots the comet. That's a young Elijah Wood as Leo Biederman, and this is years before he'd carry the One Ring up Mount Doom in The Lord of the Rings. Here, in 1998, he's a high school amateur astronomer at a star party who happens to notice an object that turns out to be an extinction-level comet. There's a nice piece of scientific texture, too. The comet is named Wolf Biederman, following the real-world astronomical tradition of naming a comet after the people who discover it. So the teenager gets his name attached to the rock that ends the world. His girlfriend, Sarah, is played by Lily Sobieski, another near unknown at the time. 8. The film had real NASA brains behind it, including a former flight director. That feeling that Deep Impact takes its science seriously isn't an accident. The production hired genuine experts. The science consultants included real astronomers, Gene and Carolyn Shoemaker, a former astronaut named David Walker, and Jerry Griffin, the former director of NASA's Johnson Space Center and a real Apollo flight director. Their fingerprints are why the film's approach to the comet, the mission, and the physics feels grounded rather than cartoonish. Here's the pointed contrast. This is the same summer that a certain other asteroid movie was, by NASA's own accounts, so wrong it became a training tool for spotting errors. Deep Impact went the other way. It brought the actual rocket scientists into the room. 7. Taya Leone's reporter works for MSNBC because CNN refused watch, which network reporter Jenny Lerner works for. It's MSNBC, and there's a story in that logo. The role was originally written for a CNN anchor, and the production wanted to use the real CNN branding for authenticity. But CNN reportedly declined to lend its name, in part because Taya Leone had recently drawn controversy over exposure in other films, and the news network didn't want its call letters attached. So the filmmakers pivoted to MSNBC instead. It's why a movie so obsessed with realistic news coverage of the apocalypse ended up with one specific network's logo. A real corporate cold feet decision visible in the background of every newsroom scene. Quick pause before the wave. If this deep dive is earning it, hit like and subscribe, because we go inside a movie like this every week. Now, back to the countdown, starting with the death nobody making the film could ignore. 6. The film is dedicated to a man who was dying as he shot it. Watch how beautiful Deep Impact looks, the golden light, the intimate close-ups, the painterly disaster. Now the heartbreaking reveal behind the camera. The film's cinematographer, Dietrich Lohmann, was dying of leukemia throughout the entire production. He grew so ill that he had to leave the shoot multiple times and finally departed for good about 2 weeks before filming ended. Meaning some of the movie's scenes had to be completed without the man who designed their look. 3 weeks after the shoot wrapped, Lohmann was dead at 54. The film carries a special dedication to him in its closing credits. So, the gorgeous, mournful images of a world facing its end were shot by a man quietly facing his own. And you can feel that weight in every frame once you know. 5. The lottery scene is the film's cruelest, most realistic idea. Watch the sequence where the government explains how the underground ark will be filled. 200,000 pre-selected scientists, doctors, and leaders, plus 800,000 ordinary citizens chosen at random by a national lottery. But no one over 50 is eligible for the random draw. It's the film's bleakest, most honest stroke. Rather than the usual disaster movie fantasy where the heroes all survive, Deep Impact forces its characters to confront a coldly bureaucratic sorting of who lives and who dies, decided by a computer. Watch Leo realize his girlfriend's family didn't make the list. Watch older characters quietly understand they've been written off by their age. It's a genuinely uncomfortable adult idea. Survival is a raffle, humanity reduced to a spreadsheet that its louder competitor would never have dared put on screen. 4. Téa Leoni's ending is the opposite of every disaster movie survival watched the film's final moments with Jenny, the reporter who's been our lead the whole movie. In any normal disaster film, the protagonist outruns the wave. Deep Impact does the opposite, and it's the boldest choice in the movie. Jenny gives up her guaranteed seat on the escape helicopter, handing it to a colleague and his baby, and instead goes to stand on a beach with her estranged father as the title. Wave rushes in. The two of them reconciling and embracing in the instant before the water kills them both. The lead character deliberately chooses death and reconciliation over survival. It's a gut punch ending that trusts the audience to accept that sometimes the hero doesn't make it, and that peace can matter more than escape. 3. Spielberg was behind it, and hand-picked its director. That polished, emotional, Spielbergian feel isn't imitation. It's the real thing. Steven Spielberg served as executive producer on Deep Impact, and he personally hand-selected Mimi Leder to direct it, having been impressed by her work. Leder became one of the relatively few women to helm a major Hollywood disaster blockbuster in the 1990s. Watch the film's DNA, and you can see Spielberg's influence. The focus on families, children, and human connection amid catastrophe, rather than pure spectacle. It's why Deep Impact feels so different from the summer's other asteroid film. One was engineered as a Michael Bay action ride, and this one was quietly guided by the sensibility of the man who made E.T. and Close Encounters. 2. It beat Armageddon to theaters and won on accuracy. Here's the rivalry every fan remembers with a pointable scorecard. Deep Impact and Armageddon were dueling 1998 movies about a giant space rock threatening Earth. And Deep Impact got to theaters first, opening in early May, 2 months before its louder competitor. The two films split the verdict cleanly. Armageddon won the box office, but astronomers and scientists publicly praised Deep Impact as far more scientifically accurate. Watch the two side by side and the difference is stark. Armageddon is drillers, explosions, and a rousing win. Deep Impact is grief, sacrifice, and a comet that partly hits anyway. Same premise, opposite souls. It's the definitive twin movie showdown, and depending on what you want from a doomsday film, either one can be the winner. 1. The disaster movie that was brave enough to let the disaster happen. Step back and Deep Impact's real distinction comes into focus. It's the rare disaster film with the nerve to actually deliver the disaster. The comet is split, but a piece still hits. The tidal wave still comes, millions still die. New York and the East Coast are still erased. Unlike almost every apocalypse movie that lets humanity swoop in and prevent the catastrophe at the last second, Deep Impact lets it partly land and spends its energy not on the save, but on how ordinary people face the end. Reconciling with estranged parents, protecting children, choosing who they want to be beside when the water comes. That emotional honesty is why, decades later, it endures alongside its flashier rival. It understood that the real story of the end of the world isn't the rocket. It's the goodbye. Those were 15 facts most fans have never heard about Deep Impact. Which one got you? Morgan Freeman predicting Obama, or the spoiler hidden in the ad banners? Send your answer to the comments before the wave hits. If this earned it, Hit like, subscribe, and send it to the friend who still argues Deep Impact was better than Armageddon. Until next time, hope survives.